Hey kids, today we're going to talk about persuasive writing um, or argument opinion writing, the differences between it and what you've done in the past, kind of the different types of persuasion, the different types of argument opinion that you can use in order to argue, and then how to plan it. So first thing you need to do is probably pause this video at this moment and make a T-chart like so in your notebook. Um, or you can do it on Google Docs if you would rather do it that way and then print it and put it in your notebook if you'd like to type. That's up to you, but you need to create a T-chart like the one that's on the board that says big ideas on the left, tell me more is on the right. The difference between persuasive and expository on the left, that's your first column. You'll need a little bit of room there. Then the types of persuasion, there's 3 types. Notice that I've left quite a bit of room there because you are going to define each one of those, so you might want to give yourself some room. And then how to plan is the bottom one here, and you will need quite a bit of room there on the how to plan category. So go ahead and pause this now and set up your table. Okay, hopefully your table is now set up and we can move on. I will not have this chart up the whole time, so you'll just have to add the following things on your chart in the right spot. First up is the difference between persuasive or argument opinion and expository. I keep saying persuasive / argument opinion because it's called many different things. It really doesn't matter what you call it. It's all the same concept. Persuasive writing or argument opinion writing. It used to just be called persuasive. Now sometimes it's called argument opinion. It really doesn't matter. But if you hear either or, we're talking about the same thing. Okay? So the difference between persuasive and expository writing, or what you did last quarter, is expository writing use direct evidence from a text in order to inform. Sometimes it was just like a general information about the world, and then you could use information from multiple texts to inform, like the 8th graders did last quarter, where they were talking about common themes in multiple literatures, and then they used information from multiple sources, okay? And the 7th graders just wrote about one specific text, but you can do this many different ways. The point here is that expository writing only uses information from textual sources, uses from texts to inform. Okay, so it can be multiple texts or one text, but you're just trying to inform something. You can inform about the text or just about the world. You can just tell me, you can write an expository paragraph about science. Technically, you could be like, a scientific method is, and then tell me what it is, and then use information from text to do that. Again, it's just for the purpose of informing, okay? But persuasive writing, down here, or argument opinion writing, uses different types of appeals to convince someone to do something or change their mind. So the purpose is different. You're not just trying to inform me, you're trying to convince me, trying to change my mind, get me to do something. And because of that, we don't just use textual evidence, we also use narrative evidence. Uses textual and narrative evidence. So you might remember from first quarter where we do narrative writing and you wrote stories from your own life to prove a point. So this is that. We're going to bring that back in full circle now. We have third quarter, we're using evidence that we use second quarter and evidence first quarter. So we're bringing both last 2 quarters together into now argument opinion writing, where we use narrative evidence short stories to prove a point about our lives. Or, sorry, to prove a point. We use information from our lives to prove a point in order to change someone's opinion, okay? So 2 big things that are different about persuasive writing is 1, that you can use more types of evidence, and 2, you're trying to change someone's mind, not just inform them. That's the difference between persuasive and expository. Make sure you have that stuff written down on the right side of that on your T-chart. You may pause now if you need to. Okay, now we have the types of persuasion. They're also called the appeals, or the 3 ways that you appeal to someone, try to change their mind, basically. So these are the 3 ways that you can convince someone to do something for you, or get them to change their opinion. And you can use all three of these together, or you can use them separately. It depends on you and the situation or the writing, what you're doing. So the best argument opinion uses all three of these to appeal to the most people, because some people will be affected by some of these and some people will be more affected by others. So if you can use all three, you will hit more people that you are affecting and you are convincing to believe you. So the first one here, credibility. Credibility is basically just trust. It's this idea that if someone trusts you, they are more likely to listen to you. So if you're trying to change someone's mind, like a friend's mind, and you're like, no, 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 you should totally do this. This is the best choice. This is the movie we should see tonight because it's way better. They might just listen to you because they trust you, because you're their friend. So if you trust someone, you have more credibility with them, and the chances of them trusting you are better, and they'll just listen to you. So like if you're trying to convince your parents to let you go to the movies Friday night and you haven't done your homework yet, but in the past you always get your homework done on Saturdays, you can say, hey, I always get my homework done on Saturdays, and if they trust you, they'll be like, yeah, sure, whatever, go to the movies, right? So that's the idea of being credibility, is basically being a person that is trustworthy, and the person you're talking to trusts you, so they want to listen to what you're saying. If they don't trust you, it's very hard for you to convince them to listen to anything else. They won't really listen to you if they don't think that you're a credible person. If they don't believe you from the get-go, nothing else you can really say changes that. Okay? The second type of appeal here is logic. And this is basically this is where the argument happens. So if you trust someone, but you're not really sure, about it still, then you might want an argument. You might want some facts and evidence to prove the point. Okay? This is where we are talking about using textual evidence. This is where we're going to use evidence from experts and people who know better than we do that prove our point. So if we use evidence from a book, it's hard to argue against that because the book really did say that, okay? So this is the logic. This is the Spock in all of us. Live long and prosper. This is the part where we want to know that this equals this equals this, and it all makes perfect sense. It's all facts, can't argue with it, this is why, this is the best argument. The last type of appeal is the emotional appeal. So basically, if you can make someone feel sad or happy or angry about something, it can convince them to do something. So if you want them to not do something, you might make them angry about that thing so they don't want to do it, or sad about it so they don't want to do it. Commercials use this a lot. So make someone feel some way in order to manipulate them. Yes, I did just use the word manipulate, okay? So if you pay attention to commercials that are particularly sad or happy, like the ones about donating to animals that are needing to be rescued, those are always really sad commercials. They give you these really sad, pathetic looking dogs that are dying, and you're supposed to want to help them. And you get sad, you feel emotional about it, so hopefully you'll want to give money because you feel bad. That is the whole point of it. It's to manipulate you into doing something. So if you feel sad about animal abuse, you might be willing to donate money to help save animals. But then, maybe it depends on what you want people to feel. If it's a product that's supposed to make people feel good, you want to show a commercial where people are laughing and all this type of stuff. There is this car commercial a long time ago about the Honda Element. They're not really even made anymore, but the Honda Element, I wanted to have the Honda Element. This was before I could even drive, and I thought, oh man, the Honda Element is the car I want to own, because in this commercial, they drove the Honda Element to the beach, and they're all running around the beach having a great fun time, and it all revolves around the car. The car had all this cool stuff in it. The doors open like completely far out wide so that they were throwing frisbees in between the doors. And because they were having such a blast and it was like so much fun, I had to have that car. It's like, oh, I need a Honda Element because that looks like fun. I still want one, but they don't make them anymore. It's not the most practical reason to buy a car just because it looks fun. But that's the point. It made me feel happy, like it was a really, really fun thing, so that's why I wanted to have it. Okay, so that is the whole idea of emotions. This is where our word choice comes into play. We have been discussing word choice already this quarter about using words that have emotional meanings. They make you feel sad or angry or upset about something. You use those type of words in your writing in order to have this emotional response from people, okay? So go ahead and pause now to get this notes written down if you haven't already. Now, planning a persuasive paragraph. We have a couple different steps here. The parts up here are kind of the brainstorming before you get to actually planning your paragraph, as we've talked before, where you have your big idea, you're telling me more, and explains. If you're not really sure, you might want to plan a brainstorm ahead of time. So you might want to explore the different sides. Like if you're not really sure if something should or shouldn't happen, you would write down should and then try to explore the different reasons why it should happen or shouldn't, and try to explore the different reasons why it shouldn't happen, and then choose the one that you have the best evidence for. Now, sometimes you will have a prompt and you clearly have an opinion about it. You're like, I definitely think that should happen. Then you would just write that here. So you would just choose it and put it here in your big idea. But there's times when you have a paragraph, a prompt that you're not really sure. You're like, I think this is what I want my opinion to be, but I don't really have any evidence about it. Then you should take a step. You should kind of do like a pros, cons, like a list idea where you kind of explore what's better. So on this side, you would explore if it should happen, and then it shouldn't, and then you'd come up with different sort of ideas over here or over here, whatever you can think of. And then you would decide, okay, which one has the best evidence, which one looks like I can be the most persuasive with, and then you choose that one and put it here, okay? Because then when you actually plan it, you go, just like your T-chart you've done before, we have big ideas, tell me more, and explains. You would say blank should or shouldn't. So you could say like, should Harry Potter be accepted as the best book series of all time, even better than Percy Jackson? Yes, I said it. So you would write, Harry Potter should be accepted as a better book series than Percy Jackson here. Or if you disagree, you would say, Harry Potter should not be accepted as a better book series than Percy Jackson, and put that here, okay? Then on this side, you are going to list 3 pieces of evidence. 2 are going to be quotes from either articles or books. And then the third one is going to be a personal experience story. So this is where you bring in that narrative evidence where you say, like, in my experience, one time a friend of mine, and then give that here. So you'd have, for example, the Harry Potter book 1 says this, and then, for example, Percy Jackson's this, and then in my experience, you know, Harry Potter has been life-changing, and like I'm a Hufflepuff and it's amazing, blah, blah, whatever. Okay, I'm being silly, obviously, but you have evidence from textual evidence, quotes from either articles or books or speeches here, 2 of them, and then 1 personal evidence story. And then on the explain side, you're going to explain how this evidence shows that emotional chargedness that we're going for. So usually in emotionally charged words, explain how your evidence proves that blank should happen. This is where you have to be very careful in your word choice, because you don't want to use a word that actually discounts your argument. If you are trying to convince me Harry Potter is the best, you don't want to use any word that sounds sort of negative to describe Harry Potter. Even if you like the word, if it sounds negative, you don't want to use it. You want to use words that make the thing sound positive. And that's what we will be practicing in the next few weeks. So make sure you have this down. And that concludes our video about persuasive paragraphs today. Thank you.